As we get closer and closer to what is going to be a frenzy of an NBA offseason, we get new information and new speculation surrounding the Miami Heat and their chances of going out and trading for an all-star level player. This time we'll focus on Trae Young as we have a new mock trade from Bill Simmons that we'll break down on this episode of Heat Digest and break down how it will affect the Miami Heat season going into next year. We'll break it all down right now on this episode of Heat Digest, how new updates on Trae Young possibly going to Miami have really not only sparked but have taken off in the last day to 2 days due to the fact that Bill Simmons released this idea revolving around the Miami Heat possibly landing Trae Young in a trade. Now, Heat Nation did post it on Twitter, but it is Bill Simmons' mock trade where he says the Miami Heat should trade Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, this year's 2024-2025 first-round pick, which would be the 15th overall, as well as a 2029 first-round pick in exchange for Trae Young. So, 4 assets leaving Miami, going to Atlanta in exchange for one all-star level player in Trae Young to now play the point guard position in Miami alongside Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, and the rest of the Miami Heat team. But again, who would be giving up? We would be giving up none other than 2 very, very elite three-point shooters as well as good scores. I won't call them great scores, either of them. But again, we'll start with Duncan Robinson as he averaged 13 points last year with 2.5 rebounds and really 3 assists per game. He only averaged 1.5 turnovers per game. Again, you'll know why I'm highlighting that in just a second. As well as shooting 45% from the field, as well as 39.5% from behind the three-point line. Now, if you're within 2 percentage points of that 40% mark from behind the three-point line, you are doing a great job. If you're shooting anything higher than 40%, and that is really how your game is played, and you shoot a lot of the three-point shots, you are a marksman, you are killing it, and you are feared behind the three-point line. I will say Duncan is 6'7". He is 30 years old. He is much older than he seems. I still think he is 25. But again, he is 30 years old and again 6'7". He shoots 41%, call it 42% on corner threes, as well as 91%, 91.5% of his threes are assisted. That is an outrageous number. That is a fantastic number. That means the ball is never being dribbled up the floor by Duncan Robinson or being over-dribbled in the half court, resulting in a tough three-point shot. Again, he's catching the ball and shooting. He's a great catch and shooter, and because of that, he's shooting, 92% of the shots he does take from behind the three-point line are assisted, which is great. It's a great notice for what is being played as good basketball. And then the final stat, he's shooting 70% of his shots are threes. Again, we know that as Duncan Robinson is exclusively a three-point shooter for this Miami Heat team. And again, that was not the only one, as Tyler Hero is the second player asset that is currently already in the league that would be going to Atlanta in exchange for the all-star level point guard in Trae Young. Now, obviously, we know how I feel about Tyler Hero. I'm not the biggest Tyler Hero fan. I would love to see him be moved for, if not one, but a bunch of really talented and good assets in exchange, again, for Tyler Hero. As again, he is 6'5". He is only 24 years of age. He is much younger than not only Duncan Robinson, but as well as Trae Young. For this past season, he averaged 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists with 2.2 turnovers, I should say, while shooting 44% from the field, as well as 39.5% from behind the three-point line. Again, if you're relatively close to that 40% mark behind the three-point line, you are feared. You are a good three-point shooter. I will say the 3 standout stats. He shoots 47.5% on his corner threes. Again, that is a great clip, as well as 81.1% of his threes are assisted on. And that is quite high as someone of Duncan Robinson. But again, it is a great percentage to be known as those are coming off of passes from other teammates where he's resulting in, and not even an open look, but a good enough look that he is shooting it and it is being assisted on. That is what we want to see. That is better basketball than isolation one-on-one basketball. And again, 45.3% of his shots are threes, so just under that 3%, or just under that 50% mark, is the amount of shots coming from behind the three-point line from Tyler Hero. And again, both of these players for the Miami Heat in Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson would be given up in exchange for the one and only Trae Young, obviously, of course, the other 2 draft picks as well with Miami. But again, 2 players for Trae Young, and Trae Young has been in a class of a very small pool amount of players due to the fact that what he brings to the floor night in and night out, whether it is he's playing for Atlanta or he's playing for the Miami Heat, a team in Atlanta that hasn't won a lot since Trae has been drafted by them, or he was drafted by, obviously, Dallas, and then they traded for Luka and this and that. But again, you know what I'm talking about. Trae Young, he averaged 26 points per game last year, 3 rebounds, and 11 assists. Yes, I'm rounding up. It's only 2 percentage points each of those. So again, 25.7, 2.8 rebounds, 10.8 assists, while averaging 1.3 steals per game and 4.4 turnovers per game, while shooting 43% from the field and 37.3% from 3. Now, you may be thinking, Houston, those stats are not as great as Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson in the sense that he turns the ball over way more than both of those players. He also doesn't shoot as high of a percentage than either of those players. Now, just relax 1 second. And this is why I say that, because you guys know how I feel about Tyler Hero. I want to see him moved. Really, I really and truly do. But again, Trae Young is an elite level player, and there's no way you can argue against that. The reason you may think his shooting percentages are so low or his turnovers are so high, you have to understand the ball is in his hands 99% of the time. If he is on the floor, the ball is going to be in his hands. He's a ball-dominant guard. He is a point guard who has the ability to score the basketball really at will, and it doesn't matter if it's from behind the three-point line or in the lane based off a floater or even a little runner. He has the ability to score the basketball so damn it's kind of amazing. Yes, I know he's only 6'1". He only weighs 170 pounds. Yes, is he going to be a liability on the defensive end? More than likely, absolutely. But when it comes down to what he brings on the offensive end of the floor, his ability to not only score the basketball, again, 26 points per game, is phenomenal in the NBA, especially when you're 6'1". But again, when it comes down to the facilitating of the offense, not only is he going to bring the ball up the floor and get the offense moving and going, but he's going to make the correct pass. He's going to move without the basketball. He's going to come off the screens, as well as, again, like I said, facilitate the ball, get the offense moving, call out the plays, run the offense. Again, 4.4 turnovers. It might seem scary and disastrous on paper, but again, if he's able to play alongside winners like Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, obviously we wouldn't have Duncan or Tyler, but we may have Caleb Martin. We have more updates on him. I will bring you guys that in the next video. But again, all these other role players, Jaquez will be in his 2nd year, Jovic will be in his 3rd year. We will be able to create a really good team. Obviously, we will still have Terry Rozier, unless we plan to move him because we're able to land someone like Trae Young to play the point guard position. Again, it's more for it's day-by-day type of ideas due to the fact that if we do go out and trade Duncan and Tyler and the 2 picks that they mentioned, obviously, in this article, again, from Bill Simmons, where they throw out the idea of trading this year's 15th overall pick as well as a 2029 first-round pick, things are going to change. We're probably not going to be drafting a big unless it's at the 43rd overall pick and, again, the 13th overall pick in the 2nd round of the NBA draft. But again, we'll have Trae Young starting at point guard. Do we keep Rozier and bring him off the bench? Do we play one of the younger guys at the point guard position, the backup point guard position that would be? But again, it's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of different questions, and we're going to have to play it day by day, especially when it comes down to the fact that if we do make this trade, what do we do with the other players on this team? Do we move them because they hold value? Do we really try to crunch and play different? Just really play with the minutes. We know Spoelstra's good at creating different types of teams, different type of lineups and rotations. It wouldn't be a different type of challenge as we did it last year for this Miami Heat team. But again, it's going to be a very interesting time. Now, I have 2 quotes from the article that from the Heat Nation. They posted this article, and it was surrounded by the Bill Simmons trade, the mock trade, if you will. And it goes on to say this. And I quote, "You basically turn them into Hero and Robinson and some assets. And then if you're Miami, you keep Butler, you have Bam, Trae, and Heat culture. Just the kind of guy who is a warrior," end of quote, Simmons stated. Going on to say this, and I quote, "It would just seem like that kind of trade. I'd be like, oh man." And then the more I look at him, I'm like, oh, expletive. that might actually have been a good trade for them. I don't know why, but I like him in Miami for some reason. Now, again, this is not a lot to go off of. I know it's a lot of hypotheticals. I know it's him kind of just questioning the idea and then saying that he really would double down and he enjoys the idea. But you really just have to be creative here. You have to kind of just imagine what would Trae Young look like playing alongside players like Bam Adebayo. I think that 1-4 combination, hopefully we go out and get a center and move Bam back to the 4. Again, hypothetical, he'll probably play the 5 next year again. But again, Trae Young getting screened for or by Bam Adebayo and then throwing that lob pass or that beautiful wraparound bounce pass to a cutting Bam Adebayo. I think things could be absolutely wonderful between that combination of players. Between that, obviously we would still have Jimmy Butler, and hopefully he would play this last year with Miami. Pairing him alongside a player like Trae Young, the offensive really responsibility for Jimmy Butler would die down a little bit, as it also would for Trae Young. But again, when it comes down to actually scoring the basketball, I think Trae Young would take a lot of pressure off of really everyone on the team and getting rid of Tyler Hero. I believe it wouldn't be as sloppy, it wouldn't be as tight, it would be just a more of a comfortable feeling. It wouldn't be as forced, if you will. But again, the final quote that I'm going to read for you guys, again from the Heat Nation article, goes on to say as follows. At this low asking price, most championship contenders would likely make an offer of similar value. The Hawks accepting the deal strongly depends on their opinion of Hero, a similar situation to the Heat hoping to acquire Damian Lillard from the Portland Trail Blazers last off-season. Now, as we all know, we've been through the Dame sweepstakes multiple times. We don't want to do it again. He went to Milwaukee. It didn't work because Giannis got hurt. Dame was hurt. Middleton was hurt for the majority of the year. It was a bunch of combustion. Then they ran into, the Celtics. They were hurt again. Or, no, they lost to the Knicks, I believe. I'm totally confused now. But again, they lost in the first round. It didn't work. Giannis obviously was injured during that series. Dame did not finish the series either due to inadequate health. Chris Middleton had to play Superman. It did not work. They went home early. And now Miami looks smart for not going out and getting Dame Lillard because he ended up getting injured not once but more than, I believe, 2 or 3 times throughout the entirety of the season, including the playoffs. So now, do we go out again, start these sweepstakes once again, and go out and try to get someone like Trae Young? The idea of Trae Young not being traded to Miami for this proposed trade, this mock trade, if you will, it would simply be due to the fact that Atlanta, like a lot of other teams, it feels like, is not very high on Tyler Hero as a player. Now, Duncan Robinson has great value. Yes, he is 30. Yes, he doesn't have an entire offensive bag like someone of Tyler Hero. But again, he doesn't require a lot. He stands in the corner. He runs off of screens, whether it be a flare or a down screen. He'll set a screen. He'll defend his best. It won't be the greatest defensive effort, but again, it'll be his best effort. And he'll knock down three-point shots, and if the kid gets hot, he's a flamethrower. There's no argument there. I would love for him to stay in Miami. I think he adds a great component to stretch the floor. But again, in order to go out and get these big-name players, we're going to have to give up really good names. And a good name would be Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Obviously, due to Tyler Hero's injury history, we don't really know if he's going to hold much value, and we just have to wait and see. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, it may come down to a day-by-day process to see whether or not Tyler Hero has any trade value. If we actually do trade him, if we do trade him, what do we get back, and then what does our roster look like after going out and getting a big-name player, whether or not that be for Tyler Hero or a mix of different players coming off this Miami Heat team. But again, let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this new mock trade, again, presented by Bill Simmons. Again, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, this year's 15th overall draft pick, as well as a first-round pick in 2029 in exchange for the one asset of Trae Young. Trae Young, again, a great player offensively. When it comes to the defensive end, when we get to the playoffs, we may have a massive liability on our hands, which will cause massive problems. And again, a different conversation for a different day. But again, hypothetically, what do you guys think about this trade? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one.